episode 36 of the Unscripted Company podcast. And we are back with some more spooky situations this week as part of our spooky season. I guess, are we calling it spooky season? Is that the official title?
For now it is. For this year it is at least.
Yeah, spooky season is in full swing. And this week we're doing haunted houses. Like haunted, I guess, mansions almost in this situation. I feel like a lot of the houses on my list are rather big houses. Are yours?
A couple of mine are. I think all but one maybe, but I'm pretty sure they're all like a form of a larger building.
Yeah, no spoilers, of course. We'll definitely jump into it. There's some big ones. I guess maybe I'll kind of allude to. We got Amityville, of course. We got the Winchester Mystery House. So I'll kind of leave it there. But we got at least six for you on this episode. But for those of you who haven't been around the block with us a few times, we like to start off with the water cooler, catch up on what's been going on this week. There's been a lot going on, dude. And last week when we did the live stream with the 10 spooky stories, definitely go check that out if you haven't listened or watched that yet. But we talked about the hurricane that went up through the eastern half of the United States. And since the last time we had an episode, have you seen the news that's come out over this weekend about another hurricane?
Yeah, I was like, dude, so I don't want to get too heavy into this topic.
That's
but
fair.
We're going to have to touch base on some stuff again. Probably we have a fun episode coming up, a couple fun episodes coming up after the spooky season. And some of the stuff we could probably talk about in there, but do you remember a bar regular that we used to have, JB?
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
So me and Dana went to the Jazz Fest last night, just walk around, hung out for a bit.
First of all, shout out to the Denton Art and Jazz Fest. That is always a good time. If you ever find yourself in the Dallas-Fort Worth area around this time of year, absolutely worth it.
100%. So we saw him. Hadn't seen him in a long time, but turns out he was working. He had a contract with FEMA, and he's actually about to go out. He does public relations stuff, so he's not like actually cleaning. So he just talks to the people and helps them get their stuff figured out. And did you know that, and you probably did, that when we have natural disasters, that the news or the people who take the count of whoever's injured, deceased or whatever, is not the accurate number?
Yeah.
Okay. They did not say how many, so they said like a couple hundred people. They're in like the thousands of people who are still missing and are probably deceased as well. And he mentioned the same thing about the tornado that we had in Valley View, that they said 8 people died. He's like, nah, like there's at least I think he said there was 44 people that died, and there was at least a couple hundred that were still missing, that a bunch of them are probably at the bottom of Lake Ray Roberts.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. The whole death toll number, and just, man, the whole situation over there right now it's a hot mess. Nothing seems to be going correctly. But what I can't get over is it seems like this happens every time our country goes through a natural disaster like this. My brain obviously goes all the way back to Katrina, but even pre-Katrina, every time a major something happens like this, FEMA always is late to the party, drops the ball, is underfunded. And I don't want to stay on the soapbox for too long, but we don't even have enough funds to take care of our own people right now, because so much of their budget has been diverted to other causes. It baffles me.
Though, Kamala Harris says she's giving $750 to each family that was affected by the hurricane, though. Like, that's enough, right?
Dude.
I'm just saying, like, it's at this point, man, I'm just I'm taking care of us. Like, we're just doing our best to survive. Like, I'm slowly, stocking up on stuff as need be and just buying stuff as need be. But dude, and then the whole port thing that lasted for a day and a half, everyone went and bought all the toilet paper, and now
yeah,
it's like, what are y'all
I was
doing?
thinking that could have been a topic we might have been able to actually talk about at length, because at first I thought this might go on for a little bit because they seem serious, but then they nipped that in the bud pretty quick in terms of, it's kind of critical to our infrastructure to make sure that our ports are operating, especially some of the bigger ports like in Houston. Like, you can't just stop that and assume everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got back to work. It seems like they're going to update their contracts in January, but I'm sure by the time someone's listening to this, news is going to change. It's an ever evolving event.
Right. But I mean, I 100% do hope that, everything gets taken care of over there. But I'm not a weatherman, not a meteorologist, but if that other tropical storm turns into a hurricane and it's even remotely like half the strength of, and like even JB, he was telling me how most hurricanes, like when they hit landfall, like you're having like 40-mile-an-hour winds, at best, like constantly 40 to 50-mile-an-hour winds. He said they were constantly about 90 miles an hour, like for 2 days straight, 90-mile-an-hour winds. And I'm like, dude, if this is that supposed to turn into, it was that category 3?
Yeah, so I just pulled up from the New York Times, and you could find this in other places too. This is currently, as of October 6th, 8:30 p.m., the projection for Hurricane Milton. So this was really weird because it formed like in the Gulf of Mexico, kind of like, southwest in the Gulf. And now it's headed out east. So right now it's currently a category 1 hurricane. By Wednesday at 2 p.m., according to this projection, and projections can change very rapidly without any pretense to it. It looks like it's going to hit around Tampa at a category 3 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon this Wednesday. And so this episode will go live Tuesday morning. So if you're listening to this, like within the same day that we publish this episode, if the projection holds true, Florida is unfortunately about to get rocked with potentially a category 3 hurricane. Hopefully it's less than that, if none at all. But you can see in the projection Wednesday at 2 a.m., so 12 hours before the projection when it hits the Tampa area, they have it at a category 4. So like right now it's going from a 1 ramping up to a 4. So as of posting this episode, it theoretically will be at a category 4 in the Gulf, headed towards Florida. And it's going to just go like west to east across Florida as of this current projection.
So again, not to stay on this topic too long so we can kind of discuss, the rest of our week and stuff like that. We've talked about this before as far as the weather stuff. So did you know that they're trying to reopen lithium mines over in the areas where the hurricane hit?
I believe that. I mean, because lithium is very crucial and critical to like our battery technology.
Because I think we've briefly talked about this, how the government can, in certain instances, control the weather.
Dude, that's the whole thing. We've talked about it from like a conspiratorial perspective, but we have actual news stories now saying like, yes, this is like a thing. So it's very, a lot of people are joking about the formation of this hurricane, and they're like, oh, that's where they put the weather machine now, is down yonder.
I'm just saying. Like, because as soon like, again, weather's no joke. I mean, when you have bad weather like that, but it's like, how far do you think our own government would go to wipe out entire cities? Like, towns and cities are gone in those areas and like probably never going to be rebuilt. And all FEMA does is they just give them enough just to have a house. Like, they don't rebuild everything from scratch. So it's like these people have nothing. And to me, it's like, okay, they bred this hurricane, ended up becoming bigger than what they probably thought, wiped everything out, and now they're trying to reopen those mines to like, get those deposits. And it's like, that's wild. Like, you're taking out people just so you can get minerals and materials. That's a far-fetched conspiracy theory, but at Unscripted Company, we like to have fun with those. And if they come true, believe me, we did not know beforehand. We are just throwing stuff out there.
No, for sure. And one thing I will say, just to leave the people with this nugget if they want to go down a rabbit hole, if you want to wonder or question how far a government agency would go against their own people, just look up Operation Northwoods, and that'll tell you all you need to know about how far they'd be willing to go to endanger the lives of American citizens. I can see Riley's Googling this in real time right now.
Yeah, I'm going to look at it later because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because we do have some good stuff for y'all. But other than that, how was the rest of your week?
It was pretty good. I'm officially 31, so my body is officially starting to break down as we speak, as the days progress.
Did you do that last year?
Slow and steady, but it seems like it increases year after year. No, it was a good week, though. I'm trying to think. Met up with an old coworker. We had some drinks earlier in the week. Talked about future business opportunities, so it's a good time.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah. I'll fill you in more on that offline, but I'll definitely bring it to the podcast as there's more substantial public information to disclose. But It was a good week. I'm trying to think if anything else out of the ordinary happened. It was a bye week for North Texas, so we didn't really have a football game this week. Dude, the other thing that happened, I'll keep this very brief. Did you see Alabama lost to Vanderbilt?
Yes.
And then Vanderbilt tore, like the students ripped down the goalpost and they carried the goalpost all the way through downtown Nashville.
They
and
pulled
then,
a Tennessee.
Yeah. And then they
It was
threw it in the
great.
river. But how was your week?
The beginning of the week was it was okay. I mean, you know, it's a hit or miss in my world, but picked up because we, like I told you, we started a new Zillow Flex, which is like the tip top of like lead sources. And after getting ghosted by the first two of them seemed to be working. The other two seemed to be working out, and then I picked up another one on Saturday. Did like 5 showings, and then they were so grateful just for me actually helping them because they'd been calling people all week and no one wanted to help them.
Interesting.
And so we signed a buyer's rep, already put it in an offer. I'm just waiting to hear back from the seller. So fingers crossed that offer gets accepted. That'd be awesome because I need to get my LLC set up. Like that's what I'm working on next.
Yeah.
So
man, there's so many news stories that my phone or like Google pushes to me just because I'll just research different things and Google thinks I'm fascinated by them. But they push me so many articles about all these new developments popping up in like far North Texas. I always kept wanting to say Salina, but it's Salina, right?
Salina, yeah.
Yeah, dude, there's like these like 10, 20, 30,000 home complexes coming in and they're building like all these like massive park developments. And man, what a time it is to be in real estate in the state of Texas.
Look up the stuff they're doing to Denton. I know you probably still keep up with it, but what they're doing to Quakertown Park and the Denton Square and everything, or like what their future plans are.
Yeah, I did see parts of that.
They got some stuff coming, but it is happening. You know, like it's so again, you know, being in Texas and being in the North Texas area. I mean, there's probably no better place to be in for real estate than the area that we're currently in.
Yeah.
Because I think we're like the top 5 fastest growing counties. I think we're number 4 if I'm not mistaken, but Texas has like some of the fastest growing areas in just the US as a whole. But not enough about real estate talk. There will definitely be plenty of time for that in other episodes. But speaking of phones,
ooh, you got a new iPhone there.
I did.
How you liking it? Does it feel like you went from like a Ford Focus to a Ferrari?
Dude, it actually does. Like, there's still so much I haven't even like learned about it. Like in my mind, I'm like, it's another phone. Like it works. Like it does everything I need. But it's like, I'm like, I need to be on here to like look at all the different settings and like check. Like I got a bunch of settings to go through, but it's just so nice. Like you know, you go from a 12 Pro Max to 16 Pro Max. That's like a 4 to 5 year gap. So it's like. And even though we were still getting the updates, it's not the same because it doesn't put everything on your phone that these phones would have. So mine got shipped out. I had to wait like an extra week and a half after she got hers. So mine got shipped out and then it got delivered the very next day. So I was like, yes. And so we got them traded in, got them set up, and it's nice. It's just, it feels different. Like this phone feels different than some of the other ones. Like I know a lot of people say like, oh, it's just copy and paste. This one actually feels different. Like, there's so much to do on this phone and they've reworked so much stuff in it. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes when you're looking for some stuff, but it's feels good when you find something new. You're like, oh my God, like I didn't even know this phone could do that. So I like it. Next thing I'm getting is probably going to be an Apple Watch just for work purposes. Like it makes sense to have one at this point. So not buying a brand new one. I'm not spending $800. I'm getting one off Amazon for like $400.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so I'm looking at that for my next purchase, but we'll see. But so far I like it. She likes hers, and it's just, I don't know, it just feels nice, you know?
Yeah, no, you really notice the difference in these phones because I think we take for granted how crazy the technology is in cell phones these days and how rapidly they advance. It's really easy to say that like, yeah, the iPhone 15 to 16 is a copy and paste. But like when you really jump up from like 2 or 3 different model years, that's when you really feel the difference of the advancement in that. Like I think some people who just get the same phone or like the next model up year after year after year and they complain about, oh, it's the same. It's like, yeah, but it's incremental differences.
It's like,
but
give it a few years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. Like, I mean, AT&T tries to push the AT&T Next, like where it's like you can upgrade every year. And I'm
Yeah.
like, look, as long as the phone works, which our phones worked, like I didn't have any issues out of my phone. It was just, the battery life, but they were like, oh, you can get the battery replaced at any time. I'm like, like I don't really need to.
Yeah.
So it's just like, aside from that, um, upgrading to this, we, and then also too, they run the $1,000 promo. So we got $1,000 off of each of our phones for trading in our 12 Pro Maxes.
Nice.
And so it's like, instead of getting a new phone every year, I can use this one until they come out with the iPhone 20, and then whatever it might be just iPhone Pro at this point, and then just take this one up there and trade it in, and they'll give me $1,000 off of it in the next 4 years.
Nice.
So it's,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I don't need the newest one. So
No, that makes total sense. Very economical of you, sir, to say the least. Yeah. Well, because some people they'll just go buy a new one, throw it on a credit card, not ask questions, and then, they wake up.
Debt.
Yep, exactly. They wake up years later and they're like, "Oh, I made a grave mistake."
All right. I'm trying to be smart about my money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good move.
All right.
Cool. So I know we got 6 haunted houses. There might be a 7th one I throw in if there's time at the end.
Right.
That kind of, it's on the secret menu. We'll see what happens there. But I'll let you kick it off first. I think you got the Amityville Horror House here.
Yes, I do. I do have, quite a few, details, but I'm not going to break down every little thing, but we're just going to kind of go through it. So, if you've ever, again, this one's based off of a movie, but there is a real life historical factor behind it. So I know a lot of people, when they see, scary movies, they're like, oh, this is this. And it's like, well, it's actually based off true events. Like, I have photos on Google, but I'm also going to kind of talk about the stuff as well. But Amityville Horror House, so it's one of the most infamous haunted locations in the U.S. With a history marked by gruesome crime, paranormal claims, and controversy. So the actual the house is called the Amityville Horror House, but the address is 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York. So you can still go look it up. You can go buy this house. You can check it out in person. I'm pretty sure they utilize it for something now. I don't think it's abandoned, but they've done work to it over the years to bring it up. But
quick question. Would you ever own a haunted house? Just don't worry about the money aspect. If you were wealthy and you're like, you know what, I'm going to buy something. Maybe you don't have to live in it, but would you ever own a haunted house?
So the people I showed those homes to, they were talking about that. And in my mind, I'm like, if it's it depends. If it's this size of a house, probably not. Because that's some scary stuff. You get lost in that house and then you're just probably tripping out for the next 6 hours if you're lost at night. But if it was a 4-bedroom house, probably.
You just want to own a very modest 3-bed, 2-bath suburban haunted home. It's got an HOA in the neighborhood.
It was the former HOA president that haunts the house. So yeah.
Dude, that's actually not a bad idea for a horror story. Oh my gosh, if we write a book, that's not a bad idea. If you write the story plot is about an HOA president who gets greedy, and so the community kills him, and then he haunts the neighborhood. I don't know. We'll dive into that later.
That could be.
It could be. It's a good Lifetime movie, I feel.
Right. But the first incident happened in 1974. It was the Defoe murder. So on November 13th, 1974, Ronald Defoe Jr. was at 23 years old, murdered his entire family, father, mother, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters, with a rifle as they slept in their beds. This chilling crime involved 6 victims and was carried out in less than 15 minutes. Each one of his family members that he killed, he shot them in the head. It wasn't even it was just one shot. But what blows my mind about that, though, is how did no one else in the house hear him?
That's a great question. And I wondered that because they show that scene in the beginning of, I forget which Conjuring it is. I think it's the second Conjuring. They show that scene of that murder.
Yeah, and they showed it in the Amityville horror movie too. They showed it at the beginning of that happening.
Yeah, I wonder because if a shotgun blast happens, it's not quiet. It's a very loud, booming, echoing sound.
Right.
So if you're in the same house as that, I assume you would hear it in some way.
Mm-hmm. Well, there were, I think in the Amityville horror movie there was thunderstorms happening, but even then, the gun would have to be a small, like it was a hunting rifle style, but I just don't know. I don't know what caliber it was,
In my head, I thought it was
but
a shotgun, so it was a rifle.
no, it was a rifle. Just
Gotcha.
yeah. Defoe later claimed he heard voices urging him to commit the killing. Strangely, there were no signs of struggle, and no neighbors heard the gunshots, which has fueled paranormal speculation. Defoe was arrested, confessed, and later convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder. Um, yeah, that incident as a whole, to me, it's the murders happened. Like, you can't say that the murders didn't happen; they did. But the story remains as to what what caused him to do that. Um, Now, a little over a year after the murders, George and Kathy Lutz purchased the house at a drastically reduced price. I wonder why.
Right?
The couple, along with Kathy's 3 children, moved in on December 19th, 1975. Merry Christmas, hoping for a fresh start, but quickly encountered what they described as a nightmare. And they had a list of paranormal claims. The Lutzes reported numerous unsettling experiences, including swarming flies, despite the cold winter, cold spots and odd smells. Different areas had extreme cold spots. Green slime oozing from walls and keyholes. The entire family claimed to witness a strange substance. Now, if there's paranormal activity involved in this, you could see things that you're not really perceiving as what they are. Like that's just, in my opinion, as a whole.
Yeah, like the whole green ooze slime thing.
Right.
That's kind of wild.
Right. Just to kind of go down just through a few pictures of this house, though.
And this is before Nickelodeon too, so no one was getting slimed yet.
Right. But yeah, this is the house. It doesn't look that big, and in the movie, the Amityville horror movie, they make the house look a lot bigger.
They make it look like a mansion, basically.
They make it look like a mansion, but realistically, this house was what you would picture a New York style house, like in the suburbs of New York, for like a family of 5 or 6.
Where is this in New York? Amityville, New York. Is that like upstate New York?
I think it is upstate because it's like I said, it's in the out, like it's nowhere near like the downtown areas like Manhattan or anything like that. So,
oh, you know what? It is part of Long Island.
mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wild. Okay, that was by Freeport.
Yeah, because it's near the like heading near the ports.
Oh, wild. Okay, so this is still kind of like not dense urban, but it's it's not the suburbs per se.
Right. So yeah, they also claimed to see unseen force and physical alterations. George Lutz reportedly became obsessed with the fireplace, complaining of chills. The family noticed changes in his personality, while Kathy said she was physically touched and developed unexplained red welts. Pig-like creature with red eyes. That's nothing demonic at all.
Wait, what? A pig-like creature?
With red eyes. Makes me think of something from the Saw movies.
They saw that, though?
The children, it says the Lutz children claim to have seen pig-like creature with red eyes staring through a window.
That's terrifying. I did not know that, because they don't show that in the movies, do they?
They don't, but that's the thing. I don't remember them showing that in the movies, because in the one that I watched with, I think it was Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
It didn't show a lot of the details like this. So unless like maybe the original did, I don't remember. I don't think I ever watched the original.
What would you do if you saw that staring out your window? Maybe not in an apartment setting, or no, maybe if you're on the first floor apartment. If you see that, I don't even know how you react to that. Like, would you even poke your head outside?
No.
I mean, obviously you grab a weapon, but would you even bother trying to confront it?
No, because if I see something staring at me like that, like I'm thinking like just demonic figure, and it's like I'm grabbing my gun and my Bible and I'm praying, and then if that sucker comes to the door, then I mean I have no choice but to just let her rip. And then the last thing that they reported or paranormal claims was mysterious sounds and moving objects. So poltergeist-esque stuff.
Yeah.
Which poltergeists aren't the only ones that move objects. I mean, a lot of different paranormal entities can, but strange noises such as banging doors and footsteps were frequently heard. At one point, Kathy allegedly levitated while sleeping. After only 28 days, though, they fled the house, leaving their belongings behind. They claimed that the paranormal activity had reached a terrifying crescendo, making the house making the home uninhabitable. So that to me, it's like, first off, it's like, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the laws for what it was back in the day as far as real estate and what states' laws mean what per se.
Yeah.
But my whole ordeal is, why would you not do your due diligence about that house to find out the history about it from just a year prior? I don't know, you know?
Yeah, it's also, it was like a different time period too, to where today, because we have access to the internet and so many documents are available digitally,
Right.
back in the day, like, how would you do that? Because unless the library had something, which I doubt they did, you would have to go out of your way to look through news clippings or trust that the, I guess like the realtor, I guess like the seller's realtor or the buyer's realtor would be able to get that info for you.
So way back then, when it came to like looking at properties, they had a book for MLS listings. So it's like, it was just a physical book
It was
that
like
you
the
would
Sears
have,
catalog, but it was
essentially, yeah, for houses. Um, and so I don't know how that would cater to that, but they would have ways to find out information if they could.
gotcha.
And for that time period per se, like for us, yeah, it's so easy just to Google something or to run a background check on somebody, like all that kind of stuff. But back then, yeah. So about a year, or I say, it doesn't say the specific date, but then there was an investigation by Ed and Lorraine Warren, which is the when you mentioned The Conjuring.
It's the couple from the Conjuring
Yeah,
franchise.
the couple from the Conjuring franchise. They conduct an investigation. During the seance, Lorraine Warren reportedly experienced dark, disturbing visions and sensed a powerful demonic presence. The infamous photograph during the investigation, a photo was taken showing what appears to be a young boy with glowing eyes, despite the room being empty. This image became a staple in the lore surrounding the house. Let me see if I can find that image. Or are you looking it up?
I can look it up if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. And then claim of demonic influence. The Warrens conducted that the house was deeply haunted, likely by demonic forces, exasperating its reputation. My thing is like, someone had to have lived in that house well before the Defoe family did, and had to have brought some sort of demonic spirit into that house.
Yo, this is creepy.
You want to share it?
Yeah. Let me just throw up my screen here. This is.
Take a look at this. Oh yeah.
Yeah, look at this.
And that's why we drink.
Yeah.
Love it.
This is creepy, my dude. Like, you see the head poking out of the room here.
Mm-hmm. He's like, hey there. Hi.
Yeah.
You want to come play?
And this, I mean, like, yeah, you can fake photos, but
now,
this is wild.
Was that one of the kids? Because it just says that like a young boy. Was that? I wonder if that was one of his. Because I know that the person who did the original murder shot his one of them was the younger brother.
Yeah. So here. Let me share this other screen real quick, because one of those photos took me to an article talking about the Amityville ghost photo. It says the photo below was allegedly taken inside the Amityville house in 1976. It has become one of the most famous paranormal photos of all time. It features what appears to be a young boy with white eyes who is peeking out of a doorway. George Lutz revealed the Amityville ghost boy photo on the Merv Griffin show back in 1979. So it's 3 years after the photo was taken. The image was supposedly captured by Gene Campbell, a professional photographer who was part of the team who worked with the paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Gene had set up an automatic camera that took infrared pictures to capture the second floor landing during the night. Equipped with black and white film, his camera captured this Amityville ghost boy photo that some have speculated could be the ghost of a murdered child, John DeFeo, who had lived in the house with his family prior to the Lutzes. It says others believe the image is that of Paul Bartz, an investigator working with the Warrens the night the photo was taken. The white eyes could have been caused by the infrared film. Dozens of websites have set out to prove or disprove the Amityville ghost photo, but most people have yet to be convinced one way or the other, thus allowing the infamous photo to continue to cast its spell. And we can see here, let me zoom in on this. So this over here on the right, this is the childhood photo of John DeFeo,
Right.
one of the deceased in that initial murder Riley was talking about. I mean, I can see where someone could make that claim.
Because I mean, the hairstyle's the same, the nose looks the same.
Yeah, like we don't have a photo. I mean, of course, I guess we could do our due diligence. We don't have a photo of the other gentleman, Paul Bartz. But this does look like a child. Like it looks like a young person, you know?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, real quick, I'm just going to see if we can find a quick photo of Paul Bartz.
While you're doing that, just to kind of go, this next part's fairly quick, but it just talks about the book and movie adaptation. So it talks about the book, the Amityville Horror Book, 1977. Jay Anson published the book, recounting the Lutz family's experiences. The book became a bestseller. And then you had the Amityville Horror movie. The story was adapted into a film, which sparked a franchise of sequels and reboots, each depicting various supernatural encounters and fueling interest in the house. Both have contributed to the mainstream allure of the Amityville Horror, making it one of the most widely recognized haunted houses. Skepticism and legal disputes, hoax allegations, critics and skeptics, as per usual when it comes to paranormal stuff, including some former owners, questioned the veracity of the Lutz's claims. Anson's book and the Lutz's accounts were criticized for exaggerations and inconsistencies. There was a lawsuit in 1979. William Weber, Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s defense attorney, claimed that he and the Lutz's concocted the haunting story over many bottles of wine as a way to profit from the tragedy. I mean,
yeah,
if they in any way participated in how the movies were made, then I could see that. Subsequent owners, multiple owners who moved in after the Lutz family reported no paranormal activity, which led to speculation that the story was fabricated. But you have to think, how did the whole investigation by Ed and Lorraine Warren go? So it's like if they were able to cleanse the house, then you might not experience that stuff.
Yeah, if you're able to eradicate whatever was there.
Right. Years later in Continued Interest, so they changed the address, the 112 Ocean Avenue, I think is what it was. But people, you can't miss the house. People know what the house is. So it's,
Yeah.
Current status, the house remains privately owned while it's occasionally listed for sale. Owners emphasize the peacefulness of the property despite its infamous reputation. Oh, so it is for sale. Wow. So anyone looking in New York, you can go buy a potentially haunted house,
All right. Unscripted Company out there. We're going to start a GoFundMe.
All right.
We're going to start live streaming. Yeah.
Right. We're going to live stream from the Amityville Horror House. Enduring legacy. Even though the truth of the hauntings is debated, the Amityville Horror has become a fixture in American pop culture. It still continues to captivate people. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much that one. I mean, there's definitely a lot more to it, but I wanted to catch at least just the main points about the house.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. There's actually a few things in that I wasn't aware of, like whatever that red-eyed pig-looking folk was sitting outside the window. That's terrifying. I kind of want to look into that more. But I have heard the accusations that the whole thing was fabricated just to profit off of it. And the one thing I've never done my due diligence on is looking into seeing, do we have any legitimate documentation to prove that the Lutzes profited in any way from this? Like, have they received any residuals, anything from their likenesses for like books, movies, etc.? Well,
that's the thing, though, is like, if they did back in those days, most of it was a paper trail. So if you just get rid of the paper, then it's easy to hide that if you didn't. So
that's true. And also, to play devil's advocate, like if I happen to move into a house, I didn't realize it was haunted, turns out it's haunted, and those events unfold in my life, and then if like a production studio or an author comes to me and says, hey, I would like to tell your story, as long as like we compensate you for your likeness, are you cool with that? Honestly, I would be like, yeah, like pay me for my likeness. So at the same time, I can't fault them if they did profit from it, because it's like, you might as well, you know what I mean? Like, you did your time.
I would say, yeah, even if it was only for how long? 28 days, I think is what they said.
Were they really only in the house for that long?
I think, let's see here, after only 28 days.
That's crazy.
And they didn't even sell it. They just abandoned the house. So, I mean, the house was probably really cheap back then. So they probably didn't lose a lot of money. But for them at that point in time, it was probably a lot of money. But yeah.
Crazy. Well, all right. The more you know.
All right. Take it away.
All right. Up number 2. Let me throw this up on the screen for us here. We have the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans, Louisiana. So you can find this at 1140 Royal Street, New Orleans, Louisiana. So let me give you a little bit of background on this, and I'll throw some photos up on the screen for us here. So you had Madame Delphine LaLaurie, who was a wealthy and respected member of the New Orleans upper class, lived a double life. So this was someone who, when you see them in the streets, you see them at tea time, they seem like a normally well put together person, but behind closed doors of this mansion, some unsettling things occurred. So, on the surface, she was a well-mannered socialite, throwing lavish parties for the city's elite in her elegant mansion. However, behind closed doors, LaLaurie subjected her slaves to horrific acts of cruelty. Now, for context, this is like in the 1830s. This is early 1800s, so things were still normal at the time. So she subjected her slaves to horrific acts of cruelty. The full extent of her barbarity was uncovered after a fire in the year 1834, which prompted rescuers to find emancipated and brutally disfigured enslaved individuals in the attic, some of whom had been chained for months, potentially even years. Among the most disturbing discoveries were accounts of makeshift medical experiments. Some slaves had their bones broken and reset in unnatural positions, while others bore deep lacerations and signs of mutilation. It's said that LaLaurie's husband, a physician, may have been involved in these gruesome acts, experimenting on the enslaved for quote-unquote scientific purposes. Now, LaLaurie fled to France after the incident, leaving her mansion to be looted by outraged locals. Although she lived the remainder of her life in exile, her mansion history became intertwined with New Orleans haunted folklore. So today in New Orleans, while yes, it's called LaLaurie Mansion, it's also just called the Haunted House because it's well known as being so haunted. So let me
Right.
go to the.
And this one's actually one of the most well, I mean, it is probably like this one of the staples in New Orleans. Like when you go to visit, like you go to this place to visit. I could have swore at one point they had a bar that was inside there that they reopened back up, but I don't know if that's still the case now. But to me, because I remember actually learning. I watched when I used to watch like those like ghost shows or whatever. This was one of the locations that they had talked about on there, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And now it's been renovated, like they use it for certain events and stuff now, so it's still used, but I could see the whole doctor using that as like a place to experiment on people. Like it's definitely got underground areas, so there's that to it also. So
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I don't know if it's currently open as of today, but they did revitalize the property. There was like a bar restaurant combo thing going on in there, and you can, at least at one point, they did have like the hotel aspect to it too, so you could stay a night there or
yeah.
nights there while you're visiting as well. However, there have been some paranormal activity reported on the property. So the horrors that occurred within the mansion have allegedly left a strong paranormal imprint. Residents, visitors, and paranormal investigators have reported strange phenomena such as disembodied screams. So people have heard the chilling sounds of wailing, screaming, and sobbing from within the mansion, presumed to be the lingering cries of LaLaurie's tortured slaves. There's also been apparitions. There are frequent reports of ghostly figures, including a young girl who allegedly died after falling or being pushed from the roof while trying to escape Madame LaLaurie's wrath. There's also some poltergeist activity, some casual poltergeist. So some visitors of the property have reported furniture moving on its own, objects disappearing, and sudden feelings of dread or oppression in certain rooms of the house. Now, albeit the sad side and the depressing side of all this, there are some fun facts. So the mansion has actually passed through various owners, and you can see on the screen here, including actor Nicolas Cage, who he had bought the property in 2007. However, if you know anything about Nicolas Cage's past, he bought too many things at one point in his life, and he lost the house in a foreclosure in 2009. Some say that Madame LaLaurie's remains were actually secretly returned to New Orleans after her death in Paris, further cementing her connection to the city. So that's kind of tied in with some of the haunting story here, is that since her bones are here, that's why she haunts the place as well. And another interesting thing was the mansion was actually a filming location for American Horror Story Coven, where Kathy Bates actually portrayed a fictionalized version of Madame LaLaurie. So there's a lot of history that goes on at this place. And of course, New Orleans in and of itself has a lot of history in that city. So here's some
They
photos
got
of
a
the
lot of
inside.
haunted history in their city. Like,
They
there's a
do.
lot.
There's a lot of death in that city. And the above ground crypts certainly help tell that story there.
Right.
Just for context, though, I don't think I ever mentioned it. The building itself was actually built in the early 1830s, so it goes back pretty far in terms of
Right.
historical relevance without the hauntings, just knowing it's a historical building in and of itself. But the creepiest part was knowing that there were medical experiments going on at the time with enslaved people. So kind of a dark history there, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, also too, so like the people say, like speculating that her remains were brought back. Like, I don't necessarily, like, as far as like paranormal aspects, I don't think that you have to have your remains brought back for it to be a paranormal haunting. Like, I just think, like, depending on how long you've lived in a place, like depending on like if you've experienced trauma in that kind of place, like even if you died somewhere else, like your spirit can still find its way back to where it's familiar to you. And let's be honest, like they live on a completely different, spectrum than what we do. So they're able to travel through things that we can't comprehend. So, but as a whole though, I mean, this place, like, I'll be honest, I didn't know Nicolas Cage owned it. Like, that's pretty cool. But this is a staple in New Orleans. Like, if I ever went to New Orleans, which I know Dana's been and she wants to go back, or at least I think she's been, I would want to go, like, if they had it open for like a bar setting, like I would like to go just to hang out in the bar and just chill out and stuff like that. Not for like the paranormal aspect, but because it's a historical marker,
Yeah, no, definitely. That's all I got for that one. It was kind of just a quick hitter.
No worries. Let's see here. So for my second one, I have let me pull it up here, wherever it may be, the Joshua Ward House in Salem, Massachusetts. And I'll just kind of pull up some photos for this one as well, just so you can kind of like look and see. This one kind of looks more like a not a house, but a like a full-on apartment or something.
It's like a colonial building.
Yeah, like it doesn't look like a house, but I'll find some more interior.
And if anyone knows anything about Salem, Massachusetts, woo-wee, there's some history there.
Right. But yeah, just to kind of show you some of those. So yeah, it was a well-known historic property, often associated with eerie legends and ghostly sightings. Its connections to the infamous Salem witch trials and subsequent paranormal encounters make it one of Salem's most haunted sites. It was built in 1974. It's one of Salem's oldest brick houses. It was designed by Samuel McIntyre, which that name sounds so familiar. A prominent local architect for Joshua Ward, a wealthy sea captain and merchant. Its federal-style architecture is known for elegant proportions, detailed moldings. It was later used for various purposes, including offices and more recently as a hotel. So it's kind of like your bed and breakfast kind of place. Connection to the Salem witch trials, Sheriff George Corwin's involvement before the house was built. Property was associated with George Corwin, the High Sheriff of Essex County during the Salem witch trials of 1692, and then Corwin played a notorious role in the trials. He was known for his harsh methods. Were you looking up the person?
Yeah, I was looking him up just to see. Nothing really sticks out to me. He was a prominent architect at the time. He built a number of different homes, styled very similar to the one you're showing here with the Joshua House, but nothing out of the ordinary. It looks like in 2011, a mahogany-side chair with carving attributed to Samuel McIntyre sold at auction for $662,500, setting a world record for federal furniture.
Dang.
The handmade and hand-carved chair was made in the late 1790s, was one of a set of 8 originally purchased by Elizabeth and Elias Haskett Derby. So, I mean, he's got a history with, I don't want to say colonial America, but I guess like early federal America, shortly after it became a country. Like, he was very prominent. He lived from 1757 to 1811. So, I mean, he was around he was an adult during the American Revolution.
Okay. Um, the Strangler reputation. So Corwin earned the nickname the Strangler for allegedly torturing accused individuals into confessions by binding them in brutal ways. He oversaw the pressing of Giles Corey, one of the trial victims, who cursed Corwin and his descendants with his dying breath. Burial on the property. Corwin died in 1696, and due to his controversial reputation, was supposedly buried in his basement or somewhere on the property to protect his body from angry mobs. This is probably where the paranormal stuff comes into play. People probably, thought it was
Yeah.
him. So his spirit, many people believe he still haunts it. Giles Corey's curse. Some paranormal enthusiasts speculate that Giles Corey curse affects Corwin's spirit and anyone who spends extended time on the property, causing unease or bad fortune. So don't go there unless you want to end up broke. And they've had other ghostly sightings. There have been reports of other spirits roaming the halls, possibly related to individuals who suffered during the witch trials. The infamous paranormal encounters, the Lady in Black photograph. If you want to pull that up,
Yeah,
it
I'll
says
pull
in
that
the
up.
1980s, Carlson Realty employees reported paranormal activity in the house, including cold spots, strange sounds. But a particularly chilling photograph surfaced taken during a Christmas party showing an apparent lady in black with wild dark hair believing to be the spirit of a victim of Corwin's torture or an unknown woman connected to the land. And they've, the other unexplained cold spots and moving objects and shadows and apparitions.
Let's see here. Is it this one? Day in the Country. Live photographer captured an image of a ghost. Picture this become the most famous spirit photograph. Let me make sure this is the one from the Joshua house. Is it this one? There's a couple photos that are very similarly named. Was it in Joshua house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, interesting. That's kind of creepy. Here, let me throw this up. Good old Reddit post.
Oh.
Yeah, this is kind of creepy here. Let me throw it up on the screen.
Huh.
Yeah, very creepy. I'm not sure where
Imagine
this...
waking up and seeing that.
Oh my gosh. That would be terrifying. But yeah, someone posted this in the subreddit Go. Says, is there any other background on this picture from the Joshua Ward house? Anyone else not convinced about this legitimacy?
I think it's fake.
Yeah, but aesthetically creepy.
Someone's like, I thought it looked like Oprah.
Yeah. It's definitely terrifying. I don't know too
Yeah.
much about like where the photo...
Yeah, I didn't find anything. I didn't go that deep into the background of it, but yeah, I mean that's like that's one of the main ones that says transition to a modern business space. So then it transitioned over the years into a hotel space. Says the Josh Ward house has been used as office space and later converted to a boutique hotel, so kind of like a bed breakfast, something fancy like that. They always are.
Yeah.
Employees and guests have continued to report unusual experiences, particularly on the upper floors where paranormal activity is most intense. Interest from paranormal investigators, obviously. Due to its history and ongoing reports of ghostly encounters, the house has drawn paranormal investigators and ghost tours, adding to its allure as a haunted attraction. The legacy in paranormal tourism, the haunted reputation in Salem. I mean, as you know, as we talked about or briefly, Salem is very much so known for its, hauntedness and tourism for that. It stands as one of Salem's most famous haunted houses, partially due to its association with the Salem witch trials and the fearsome Sheriff Corwin. It's contributed to Salem's image as paranormal destination. And then involvement in ghost tours. The house is a popular stop on Salem's ghost tours, attracting countless tourists interested in experiencing its haunted history firsthand. And then the present day reports apparition of Sheriff Corwin and others. Reports of shadowy figures resembling Corwin continue, as well as sightings of spectral women who some believe are tied to the curses. Modern day paranormal experiences. Guests have shared experiences of feeling watched, hearing footsteps, and witnessing lights flickering. The sense of dread reported by those entering certain rooms persists, adding to the mystery and appeal.
It's always interesting how there's like a sense of dread that comes over people. It's not like a sense of fear, but it's like a sense of dread.
Well, I don't think what people understand is like when you look at like paranormal stuff, you don't just have ghosts. Like it's not just a ghost or an apparition. Like you have different levels of like if I was to pull up like all the different variations of a apparition, it would have like an oni, a demon, you know, there's like there's probably like 15 or 20 different ones, man, and like they could be different ones. So it's like just because someone passes away doesn't mean that they're just going to be just a ghost. Like they could, you know, convert into something else. Like it just depends on where you're at when you pass away, I guess. Like and some of the remnants of yourself still remain in your spiritual body based on how you used to be. So if that sheriff is still around there just haunting people, like he's probably just like, I'm gonna choke you, like, or I'm gonna strangle you. Like that's their mindset, like when it comes to that stuff. Um, but if people are still reporting this stuff today, I mean, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, especially today. People have the internet; they do stuff just to get attention. But I'm not ruling it out that there are paranormal and spiritual aspects that play a hand and stuff like this. And I'm not saying that people haven't experienced it, but if you have like 1,000 people and like 990 of them say, yeah, I experienced this, but then, or like even the other way around, like 990 say, hey, I've never experienced this, but then you get those 10 that say I have, or if again, the opposite way. So you have to take everything into consideration with that, but it's still for a place like that in Salem, Massachusetts, I could definitely see that being the case because it's known for its, paranormal activities and stuff. So
Have you or Dana ever watched Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting of Bly Manor?
yeah,
Have you seen both of those?
we've so a lot of these movies I haven't watched with her, but I watched way back when
No,
before
no,
me
no.
and her
These are one season shows on Netflix. They're like 9
Oh.
episodes each, both done by the same like production team. So the first one was The Haunting of Hill House. The second one was The Haunting of Bly
Oh.
Manor. So your homework assignment is, since it's spooky season, you and Dana sit down, watch the trailer for each, and dive into whichever one you want. And just know that like you are not going to be disappointed. They are so good. They're not horror. They're not jump scare every 30 seconds. It's very cinematic and methodical and suspenseful.
I have to check it out because, right. So that's the thing is like just a quick spin off, but we're watching One Piece, and so once we get caught up where we need to be in that, it's going to be time for us to start looking for other
Yeah.
things to start watching. And I'm like, I've been wanting to get back into watching like your documentary type stuff, or like your ghost stuff, or even just like your horror stuff. I know they had like a series that came out regarding like horror stuff like last year, the year before that. We just never got around to doing it. So
I
we'll
was
check
preface.
out.
This is like pure fiction. It's just like its own, almost like watching a ghost story, but it's like 9 episodes, and it's like one story. It's like watching a giant movie, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so good. The writing is impeccable. The cinematography impeccable. Like it's very high production value for it being a show.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's all I got on that one. So I'll hand it back off to you.
Cool. Up next, we got the Bell Witch Farm, otherwise known as the Bell Witch Cave. So let me throw up my screen here so we can see a photo of this. So this is kind of like a daily double. Not only is it a haunted house, there's a cave on the property, so it's a haunted cave at the same time. And I'll read off kind of the story here, but for those of you listening or watching, if you really want the full in-depth story, if you go back one episode, episode 35 of the Unscripted Company podcast, Riley and I did a top 10 spooky story live stream. And this was actually one of the spooky stories I pulled, but I wanted to dive deeper to some of the lore with this cave. So I decided why not bring it up as one of the haunted houses on here. So let me give you kind of like a Spark Notes backstory on this. So this is actually one of the most documented and historical hauntings in America. And the Bell Witch haunting involves the Bell family. And they moved to, at the time, it was known as the Red River area. Now it's known as Adams, Tennessee. So for anyone curious, if you're just listening, this is at 430 Keysburg Road in Adams, Tennessee. The Bell family, moved there in the early 1800s. The family was led by John Bell, the family patriarch. He began experiencing strange occurrences on the farm, animals behaving strangely, eerie knocking sounds, and disembodied voices that tormented not only him, but also his family. The spirit, which came to be known as Kate, allegedly had a personal vendetta against John Bell. The legend suggests that Kate Batts, a local woman who believed Bell had cheated her on a local land deal, cursed him. However, there's no historical record to confirm her involvement, and some scholars believe that the witch was a manifestation of the family's collective stress and hysteria. However, Kate's spirit allegedly grew in power, moving beyond simple noises to full conversations with the Bell family and visitors. Most disturbingly, it physically attacked members of the Bell family, particularly Betsy Bell, the youngest daughter of John Bell. In 1820, John Bell fell ill and he died. And according to the legend, the spirit claimed responsibility, stating it had poisoned him. And after John Bell's death, the witch's activity lessened, but never completely ceased. The spirit made one final appearance in 1828, announcing it would return to haunt future generations of the Bell family. Now, what's kind of terrifying about this is it's an old enough story, so some of this is legend, some of it gets lost in translation, but there is a firsthand account of at John Bell's funeral that Kate, this witch, this poltergeist, this spirit, was actually at the funeral laughing and like howling of like joy and glee that, John Bell was finally dead. We don't really have any modern day photos of the house because it doesn't stand anymore, but we do have the cave, and the cave is open for tours. You can actually go to Adams, Tennessee and tour the cave. There have been stories where people that have toured the cave, people that have worked to help, like historical preservation societies, they'll go in and treat the properties. There's been stories about them experiencing poltergeist type activity. None of it, unfortunately, has really been caught on like photos or films, but there have been stories of people that get legitimately spooked, or they have that sense of dread, and they have the feeling of like, hey, we got to leave the property right now. Now, some fun facts about the Bell Witch, actually. So the Bell Witch was the legend that inspired what we now know as the Blair Witch Project. So the movie, The Blair Witch Project, that witch was actually loosely based on the Bell Witch in Adams, Tennessee. Another fun fact about this was President Andrew Jackson is actually, rumor has it, it's hard to find actual documentation on this, but rumor has it that President Andrew Jackson was said to actually have visited the Bell family and actually allegedly encountered the Bell Witch. And because of his encounter with the witch, it actually prompted him to cut his stay short. And he left, at the time, Adams, Tennessee, before the full extent of his trip could happen. The cave, as I mentioned, is still located on the property. You can go tour it if you'd like. And just for context on this, the time period that this haunting happened, it was between 1817 and 1821. So it goes pretty far back. So some of this might have been lost in translation, but it's still interesting that this community fully well believes that the cave is haunted. The witch is still somewhere around here. There was a former president that went to visit this, Andrew Jackson, of all presidents. He got spooked. He left early. The patriarch of the family was haunted by this thing and was apparently killed by it. It showed up at the funeral, laughed at the funeral, and said it'd be back to haunt future generations. So who knows what's true? Who knows what's been fabricated over the years? But one thing's for certain, there is a cave in Adams, Tennessee that you can go tour that people have been spooked by. So
I say let's just throw some dynamite down there and just seal it up, because I know we've talked about the hollow earth theory,
yeah,
but depending on how far this cave goes down, I would be remiss to say that yeah, you have your haunted houses, but it's like spiritual aspects can sometimes come from the deepest holes in our planet that can experience phenomenon like this, and that it could it's like there's like we've talked about what was it, Skinwalker Ranch, and how there's probably like a paranormal portal system that they can use to come back and forth. I could see something similar like that happening here. Or again, it could have just been, you know, with the Kate spirit, that maybe something that this guy had done, or maybe someone that his family, but like before him had done, or someone, or I don't know. You know, it's like we would need more context to really piece together like why was this family targeted so hard, and why did she make it her personal vendetta or mission to target any one of their family, and how would she know if their family, you know, that's living on that property, you
Yeah.
know? So
No, that's a great point. It's a great point. It's just one of those things where the story goes just far enough back where it's like, okay, how much of this is lost in translation versus,
right.
you know, stuff happens. You know, if you look at the grand scheme of things, like hauntings don't happen every day, but if they happen every 100 years, like this could have been one of those, one of the few legitimate ones.
Actually, that's actually, you know, hold on, let's see here.
Yeah. What are you looking up over there?
So this is a 2021 poll. It says there's no evidence of hauntings happen frequently in the United States, but here's some information about paranormal experiences. In 2021, a 2021 poll found that 41% of American adults believe in ghosts and 20% have experienced them personally. So, I mean, over 300 million Americans. Wait, yeah, 300 million America, yeah,
Something like that. Yeah. It's like, I think
yeah,
350, something like that.
yeah. So, that's a good bit of people, but it also too just to, like, some people may experience stuff, but they just don't think anything about it. You know?
Yeah. And the other thing too that, and this is a whole rabbit hole, but maybe some people have the ability to see or experience things not of this current, I don't want to say dimension or realm, whatever that terminology would be.
Right.
Some people might have a little sneak peek behind the curtain.
Right. All right. So my last one, I didn't really have these three in any specific order. Kind of just like put them on there. You know, it's not like we're doing like a top three or whatever. But the last one that I picked was the Hay House in Macon, Georgia. So again, I'll just throw some photos up here just so that we can.
And this one I've never heard of, so I'm kind of curious. I've heard of Macon, Georgia, but not
Yeah. This
this
is probably one
house.
of the nicer ones. Like this place was, it was nice for what it, for its
That is a
architecture
nice
design.
house.
So located in Macon, Georgia, as one of the South's architectural masterpieces, is often called the Palace of the South. It was built in the mid 19th century. It's known not only for its unique Italian Renaissance design, but its rumored hauntings and mysterious past. So, built between 1855 and 1859, it was commissioned by wealthy businessman William Butler Johnston and his wife Anne Tracy Johnston. They spent 2 years traveling Europe, gathering inspiration for their future home. That's awesome. Architecture, the house is designed in the Italian Renaissance Revival style, a rarity in the antebellum South. It spans over 18,000 square feet and features elaborate architectural details, including Corinthian columns, marble fireplaces, and exquisite stained glass. Marble fireplaces. I have to find
That
that
is,
picture
I've
of that.
not heard of that before. Also, 18,000 square feet.
Yeah. Nicknamed the Palace of the South due to its grandeur and architectural significance, the Hay House has been referred to as the Palace of the South since it was first completed. Its design and features, such as central heating and plumbing system, ahead of its time, marked it as one of the most advanced homes of its era. The ownership and legacy, the Johnston family, they lived in the house with their two children. Their daughter, Mary Ellen Johnston, later inherited the home with her husband, James Edward Dunlop. They maintained the house until her death in 1926. The Hay family ownership. In 1926, the house was purchased by P.L. Hay and his family, who would own it until 1977. So, realistically, not that long ago if you think about it in retrospective history.
Yeah.
The Hay family added to the property's history, preserving many of the original furnishings and architectural details. Then it transitioned into a museum in 1977. The Hay House was acquired by the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation. It was open to the public as a museum, showcasing its historical and architectural significance. So the architectural and design features octagonal rooms and spiral staircases. It's one of its most iconic features, including stunning circular staircases that rise through 4 floors capped by a unique cupola. Yeah, cupola. The circular design has added to its allure and is believed to influence the mysterious ambiance felt by visitors. Um, the Hay House is known for its stunning decorations, including elaborate plasterwork, again, fireplaces, painted murals. So the ghostly legends and paranormal claims. Reported apparitions. Many claim to have seen ghostly apparitions, including figures resembling past owners and children who once lived in the house. Some believe the spirits of the Johnston family or former guests linger in the halls. That would make the most sense because, I mean, if the daughter, if she died in the house, I could see that.
Yeah.
Um, Mysterious noises and shadows. Visitors and staff frequently reported hearing unexplained footsteps, voices, and strange sounds. Shadows in the halls and eerie feelings in specific rooms contribute to its haunted reputation. Sightings in the cupola. The cupola is rumored to be a hotspot for ghostly activity. People have reported seeing faces in the windows, shadowy figures, and feeling an eerie presence when visiting the highest point in the home. Um, let's see here. Specific haunted rooms and areas. The music room. Guests often report strange occurrences in the music room, including cold spots, sudden drafts, feelings of being watched. Some claim to have heard faint music or whispering when the room is empty. The dining room. They feel a sense of unease in the dining room with reported sightings of shadowy figures near the large fireplace with the occasional sudden drop in temperature. And the third floor bedroom. Visitors have reported seeing the figure of a woman in one of the third floor bedrooms. She was often described as wearing period clothing and seems to disappear when approached. That could be her. Like, if that's her bedroom,
Yeah.
you never know. Um, and then restoration efforts. The Georgia Trust for Historic, they carried out extensive restoration efforts. Pretty much it's been maintained, like it's been maintained with all the original stuff, which you very rarely see anymore.
I mean, heck, if you have a marble fireplace, it's just crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just seeing how they build homes today versus, I got
Right.
a marble fireplace.
100%. And then paranormal investigations and media attention, interest from paranormal investigators. They have visited the Hay House, documenting their experiences and collecting evidence. They often report EVP, electronic voice phenomenon recordings, unexplained temperature fluctuations, and sightings of shadowy figures. And the Hay House has been featured in multiple paranormal television shows, history documentaries, and ghost hunting programs, increasing its popularity as a haunted location. So, like, not like a spooky, like, why this bad story happened, but it's one of the more renowned haunted locations. But it's also because of its historical significance and just the style of the house.
Yeah, I think sometimes with these older homes, I don't want to say they entrap spirits, but they carry stories with them over the years, especially these more immaculate homes. Because when somebody doesn't sink millions of dollars into these homes, like they're going to be replaced, torn down. Whereas like some of these more immaculate homes, they stand the test of time. They live on. And like, what was the year you said this one was built? Was it doing
1855? I think is when they said it was built.
Yeah.
So they. The way they made it seem was that the couple who had the house built, they'd already had the land, and so they were just traveling just to get inspiration for what they wanted. Which, dude, can you imagine how much this would cost today?
No.
And they probably spent like maybe $100,000 to build this back then, maybe.
But also think about how much $100,000 was worth back then too.
Exactly.
Yeah, because this was like the U.S. coming out of the Civil War, and what is money? And money, the South didn't have a lot of money because they transitioned their currency to a whole nother.
I'm curious now. Let's see here.
Are you seeing how much it is like adjusted for inflation?
Dude, I'm so good. I am so good. Let me see if this is what I just saw. So let me find it real quick.
How much you say they spent? $100,000 on this?
I'm pretty sure I'm right because I'm looking at something right now, but I'm trying to find where the exact number was. Okay, so it says the article briefly described 10 residences, new or under construction, including the elegant mansion of W.M.B. Johnston, estimated to cost an exclusive of equipment about $100,000, but I don't know if that's the same. Let's see.
So it was $100,000, and what year did you say? It was like 1853.
1855.
So it looks like $100,000 in 1855 is equivalent in purchasing power to about $3,618,344.83 today.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that.
Actually, so yeah, I guess that was from 2023. In 2024, as of today, it'd be 3.7 million. Basically 3.8 because it's 3.79. That's crazy.
So they said right now, it says if they wanted to fully restore it, like fully go through and do everything, it would be an estimated 17.5 million to fully restore and permanently endow its maintenance and management. Yeah, so the Hay House is one of Georgia's most historic homes and was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1974. Construction began in 1855, was completed in 1859, costing $100,000. I am good. I took a guess on that, didn't even know.
Nice.
At the time, which was equivalent to $8 million today. So that's what this is saying right here. So I don't know. So we could probably just say it's somewhere in the middle, probably about like a six million range, give or take. But yeah, that's insane. Like, could you imagine, like, if that family still owned that house today, those great grandkids are living high and mighty in that house and could sell that house and go buy so much property with it.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, there's some houses that get built today. Like, there's so many mansions around Dallas, Fort Worth we don't realize exist. Or, like, have you seen how big Tyler Perry's house is? His is it's like a huge. It's got like a property, with like, man, how big is Tyler Perry's house? Let's see here. His house, multi-million-dollar house, is on 2,100 acres.
40,000 square feet.
Yeah, like that thing is
12 bathrooms.
Massive.
And where's?
It's outside of Atlanta.
Yeah, I see right here. Dude, here's my thing. Why do you need that much house? Like, what are you doing? And here's my thing. If I'm building a house like that, okay, I'm just saying, if I'm building a house like that, so you see like all of like the stuff that he's like the trees, the fountains, and all the unnecessary things there, I would not be building that around my house. I'm like, if I'm building a house, like I'm not putting a bunch of like 2-level tennis courts, even on that picture. Like I'm putting stuff that's gonna like I'm gonna be doing stuff on, like a gun range. Like I'm putting like things that have a essential purpose on my house, not just a bunch of fountains.
Have you seen Kid Rock's house?
Mm-mm.
It's an exact replica of the White House.
That's like the biggest like move, like OG move right there.
Yeah, and it sits on top of a hill that overlooks Nashville. So it's hard to see in this because I know it's small, but like off in the back distance, it oversees downtown Nashville. It's like in a hill that overlooks.
Like that would be cool. Like I would love to do something like that. That'd be cool.
And he has gold toilets.
Okay, that's a bit excessive. But that would be cool though, like living up on top of a hill and you're just overlooking everything. Yeah. Like that would be pretty cool. But that's my thing with these big houses is like I don't need that much. Like the biggest house I would probably go, like if it's just me and Dana and maybe my parents living with us kind of thing, the biggest I would go be like 5 or 6 bedrooms.
Yeah. We can also do like have a guest house. Like you don't have to have one big house, you know? You could put like 2-3 houses on something.
Right. And then have like a studio and like a big like metal building garage that has bay doors but also an office. Like that's my vision, you know.
Just in case one gets haunted, you can at least run away to the other one.
Until the spirit's just bouncing around, you know.
Yeah. All right.
Take us home.
Yeah, last but certainly not least, we have probably one of the more popular haunted homes in all of these lovely United States. We have the Winchester Mystery House over in San Jose, California, located at 525 South Winchester Boulevard in San Jose, California. So, a little bit of a backstory on this property. This is the property of Sarah Winchester, who was the widow of the firearms magnate William Winchester. It was haunted by personal grief and guilt after the death of her husband. So Sarah Winchester, married to, if you're familiar with Winchester rifles and Winchester firearms, she found herself filled with grief and guilt after the death of her husband and infant daughter. According to the legend, Sarah believed she was cursed by the spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifle, and that they would haunt her unless she continuously built a house to appease them. So in 1884, she began the construction of what would become the Winchester Mystery House, a sprawling 160-room mansion filled with architectural oddities. The construction was ongoing for 38 years, day and night, until Sarah's death in 1922. There was no master plan for the house. Sarah reportedly gave new instructions for additions and changes on a daily basis, resulting in the house's maze-like layout. The mansion has staircases that lead to nowhere, doors that open into walls, windows looking into other rooms, and secret passages. Sarah believed that the chaotic and nonsensical design would confuse the spirits and protect her from their wrath. Let me go on to the second page here so you can see this. So here's an example on the top right. This is like a staircase that leads to nowhere. On the bottom, you can see a staircase that leads to another staircase, but it goes right back down. It's a very ornate house, though.
First off,
Yeah.
that library, though.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine what knowledge is in that library? Like,
It's a good point.
gosh, that's awesome. Man.
Yeah. But you can see in the bottom photo here, the bottom middle, just how large this property is. So this house has 160 bedrooms. 160 rooms, 40 bedrooms, 10,000 windows, 47 staircases, 2,000 doors, and 6 kitchens.
Just something funny here for a second. Can you imagine if, like, modern times today, you have a house like that, like a compound that's like that, not like the mansions you see nowadays, but it's so technologically advanced in a sense where it's like you have like this group of people who are like, yeah, we're gonna break in and rob this family and all this and that, and they break in, and then all you have to do is flip a switch and everything locks down, and then all of a sudden over the intercoms you're like, I am the captain now. It's like, now you're about to become the hunted. And can you imagine like just like being hunted in this house? Like, even if it's like a ghost infested house, like you get lost in this place. I'm good.
Yeah. Now, some of the paranormal activity that's been experienced here is Sarah's spirit, of course. So Sarah Winchester herself is believed to haunt the mansion. Visitors have reported seeing her ghostly figure dressed in Victorian garb, wandering the halls, or seated at her favorite window. There's been footsteps and random voices. People claim to hear phantom footsteps on the staircase and whispered conversations in empty rooms. There's also the residual haunting effect here. So some paranormal investigators theorize that the house's design may have created residual energy, trapping certain events in a loop. Visitors report hearing the sounds of hammers and saws, believed to be echoes of the endless construction. And then, of course, there's apparitions of the workers who built the home. There's been ghostly figures resembling the laborers who worked on the house who have been spotted, often appearing as shadows or fleeting figures in the doorways. Now, some bright spots here. Despite her belief in spirits, Sarah Winchester was a philanthropist and quietly donated much of her wealth to charitable causes, particularly for tuberculosis research. The Winchester Mystery House inspired a 2018 film titled Winchester. It starred Helen Mirren as Sarah Winchester. And the house was actually built on a floating foundation, which may have actually helped the house survive during the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. So if a lot of people, if you don't know about this, in 1906, San Francisco witnessed a catastrophic earthquake that basically leveled the entire city. They had to kind of start over from scratch. But this is one of the few things that didn't collapse because of the floating foundation during that time. But
even the Winchester house still stands strong, just like their firearms do today.
Dude, exactly. It's crazy. So the house, they began construction on it in 1884, and they technically never stopped building the house until 1922. So they went from 1884 to 1922, and the only reason they stopped was because Sarah herself passed away. Like, her mentality was, as long as I'm alive, I'm being haunted by the spirits of everyone who's been killed at the hands of a Winchester rifle. So I need to continue building on this house because rumor has it, there's been a few versions of the story, but rumor is she went to go speak with like a medium, and the medium was like, yeah, as long as you keep building upon this house, these spirits are not going to haunt you, basically. And so that's why it's confusing to trap spirits, but it's also just keep building forever. So they never stop
Right.
building this thing.
That's so intriguing though. Like, now, do you think that like I know it says like, endless construction and a labyrinth design intended to confuse spirits. Do you think it was also like there was intention to build stuff there, but then they just kind of just like, no, we're not gonna actually put anything there. We're just gonna build it like there had to have been there had to have been a long term plan. Like she had to have had this planned out. Like it wasn't just like a like I knew she was gonna keep building, but they had to have plans for how they were gonna build out because you can't just
There's no master plan. There's no blueprints. It's just keep building. That's why
that's
some of it's just so crazy. And you can actually go tour this home. This is very, very much open for tourists. And
where's
there's
this at again?
San Jose, California. So it's just outside of San Francisco.
Guess I'm gonna have to. Okay, now here's isn't that some irony? The fact that one of the most well-known gun manufacturers has a house in California, which is one of the most like notorious for gun control and not letting people own firearms. Like the irony here.
Yeah. I mean, for context, though, they were on the East Coast originally, and she moved out west after her husband passed. So Henry Winchester. Is it Henry Winchester? What was her husband's name? I'm going blank on it now. William Winchester. Yeah, he's buried in New Haven, Connecticut. Born in Baltimore, Maryland. So they were on the East Coast, Northeast, the majority of their life. And after he passed, she went out west. And this was also California in like the 1800s. So it's a very different California than what it is today. But you're right. It is kind of the irony of, the Winchester family, the Winchester fortune
Yeah.
is located in a state that you can't really own a Winchester. Or it's extremely difficult to get a Winchester.
Yeah. But no, I mean that's cool though. I like that. Like the house itself, like I definitely want to look into that house more because I didn't realize their house was that big. But just the photos, like the architecture style, just looks immaculate. Like, and I that's my thing is like I get now we're just trying to catch up on housing inventories. They're trying to just build as many houses as they can. But I'm like, this is why I just want to custom build my house. Like I don't want like if I have to live in one for like 5 to 6 years, cool, I'll do that. Build some equity, cool. Sell it, build something else. I'm okay with that. But if I have the opportunity, I'm just going straight for the land and I'm just going to build the house that I want, even if it's not something as immaculate as that, but something that I want. That's what I'm going for. So,
yeah, you want something with character. And I totally get it. Like I hate the concept of all these cookie cutter homes and these like HOA master plan neighborhoods. Sometimes it's a necessary evil, unfortunately, just because like they don't build houses like they used to. They're all, you get like 5 options, and really the only difference is the color, the outside of it. But
and I'm okay with it for like a first time.
yeah,
Like I said, if it's something that me and her were like considering, and it's like okay, cool, like we'll go for this, like because they're paying our closing costs, they're buying our rate down. Like okay, I get it. Like if I can get like a sub $2,000 a month payment or even less than that, depending on how much the house is, like I'm for it. But if I have the opportunity to not do that, I'm not going to do that. But but that's definitely interesting. Like I definitely, it's good stuff tonight. Real good stuff tonight.
definitely yes. So that was basically 6. We're not going to say the most haunted houses, but definitely 6 haunted houses in the U.S. that for sure caught our attention. I know next week we're wanting to dive into some of the more prominent murders of spooky season. We'll just leave it at that. So kind of like a little teaser for y'all. You definitely want to tune in next week because it might get a little bit more morbid than just a little bit of the woo-woo poltergeist in the house. We're getting into the some of the blood and guts side of it, to say the least. But Riley, just out of curiosity, like I know you had your 3, I had my 3. Out of the 6, was there one that was like your favorite? Was it the Winchester House based on what you just said, or is there another
So
one that grabs your attention?
The Winchester House one was good, but I think for me it was probably it was between the LaLaurie Mansion. I like that one for the historical significance of it, and I definitely learned some stuff that I didn't know beforehand. And yeah, I'd probably say between that one and honestly the Joshua Ward House, because I didn't even know about that one. Like I found it, I was like, that looks pretty interesting, and then it got deeper than what I thought. But probably between those two.
Yeah, I'm
So
kind of the same. I like the LaLaurie just because it's pretty dark. Amityville's an easy one to say, but I feel like
well known.
it's so well known, and it's so, what's the right term, commoditized, I guess, with the
Yeah.
movies and all that. But
Right.
that still interests me just because it's pretty, it's well documented for the short period of time of its haunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that it was such a short period of time. You always forget it really was like the 27 days or the 20 something days
Right.
that they said, but it could have been more before that because you had the family murder that happened before that.
Mm-hmm.
But also the Hay House. I didn't know about the Hay House at all, so that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Overall, good stuff.
yeah, definitely. So we made it about hour and a half in. So for those of you still out there watching and listening, first of all, thanks for making it this far with us. Let us know. Let us ask you the same question. Which of these six was the most interesting to you? Were there any on here that you hadn't even heard of before? Let us know. But also, let us know, are there any other haunted houses out there that maybe we didn't talk to that you think we should look into? Because we have a few more of these episodes left in spooky season, and we might be able to slip it in there, or at least on that live stream for the 40th episode, we might be able to slip that in there and have a little bit of a conversation on it. So feel free to let us know that down below. The other thing, just some shameless plugs, get those out of the way. If you haven't yet, of course, give it a like, give it a subscribe. I already asked you to give a comment, so probably already in the process of doing that, typing it out right now. I don't want to interrupt you from doing that. But if you ever want to, you go over to unscriptedcompany.com. You'll see all the social media links you'll ever want. There's also a newsletter. You can subscribe to that so you can always get the latest news about when we drop a new episode, additional context behind those episodes. We'll provide you links about any news articles, or in this case, any of the photos or any of the things we read off today. A lot of that will be linked in that newsletter. So definitely want to check that out as well. I think I already mentioned our 40th episode will be live streamed. We'll have that coming up. Man, time flies. It's crazy. We did a live stream last week, already getting ready for the next live stream. So time will fly by.
And just think where we were at a year, like almost a year ago. Like this was just an idea, like and then we just took it and just ran with it, and here we are.
Yeah. No, it's been a blast so far, and I love this whole spooky season idea that we're doing. So much more to come on that. So definitely want to make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. But Riley threw me off guard last week at this, so I'm going to throw it back in his face. Riley, you got to leave these people with some words of wisdom, my dude. We just talked about all these haunted houses, so I'm sure you have some wisdom to drop on these fools about how to live their life.
Yeah, as always. Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. If y'all do enjoy the content, subscribe, give us a follow. Just we just enjoy it. We appreciate the support. We enjoy having y'all on here for the ride. We also do have our merch, so if you do want to support, and more than just that, if you're able to, we have hoodies, t-shirts, and not yet released, but if there is a demand for them, we do have coffee mugs, and so definitely would appreciate that as well. If not, we just appreciate the support all around. As far as words of wisdom, honestly, I'll just kind of just leave this with a question. If you had the opportunity to stay in either one of these 6 locations for just a night, just one night, and you had to stay in, I don't want to say the most haunted area or location of the place, but you have to stay on the top floor because that's usually where they say a lot of the stuff happens at. So if you had to stay on the top floor, whatever room you wanted to, and you had to do it for just one night, I guess I could put a monetary thing behind it, but you would get, I'm going to make it challenging. You only get like $150,000. I'm not going to be like 500 grand or anything like that, because that's too easy, because then everyone would say that. But like $100,000 to $150,000, and all you had to do is just stay one night in one of these places with very minimal equipment and lighting. So like you had like enough lighting to be able to see, but that's it. Would you do that? I'm just gonna leave it off with that. No actual words of wisdom, but if you would, please let us know down in the comments. And until next week, we'll see y'all then.